Today I'm going to tell you all about all the things I wish I knew about each king before I started playing 9 kings. Let's get right into it. And first up is King of Nothing. And as this is the first king you get to play in 9 kings, I think one of the first things I had to learn the hard way by playing a lot of games was just don't spread your army too thin. This clip that I'm showing here is from one of my other videos, I'll link down below. And the build I'm going for is like my catapult damage boost, and I have paladins just to tank for troops. And in my experience, every time I've tried to focus on more than, I would say, 3 plots of anything, no matter towers or troops, it does not end well in higher difficulties. And as you can see in this video, his ability is actually really overpowered. I started playing before the perk revamp, and so I didn't really believe the catapult could be that strong, but with the new perks, you can get your catapult very high level, very high damage, and very high attack speed, along with whatever buildings you put next to it. And to kind of support everything I'm saying now, this next little battle just shows how strong and how broken the catapult is. As you can see, my paladins didn't even get a single hit of damage in the battle before. It just instantly wipes out everything. And the next king I'm going to talk about, what I wish I knew before playing 9 kings, is King of Spells. And once the perk revamp came out, one thing I wish every new player knew about King of Spells specifically, before they even level him up, is that there is a perk that allows a 5% chance to insta-kill every zap from the main castle. Which you can see in this video, I focused on the attack speed of my castle, got it at a high level, and every time it says infinity, it's just wiping out entire waves of people, and it pretty much carried my entire run. And when I started playing 9 kings, I honestly wasn't a fan of King of Spells. I think he was one of the last kings I got leveled at all, and then once I found out about this insta-kill, every time I run it, I pretty much run that build. And also, enchants in the game, at first, I didn't think they were that good. I didn't understand how to stack them properly. But with King of Spells, you gain access to the library, which adds enchants every year with a certain % chance of happening. And there are perks to increase that chance of happening. It starts at 50%. At a max, you can get it up to 70%. And I have some videos showing that these enchants can get very high numbers. Like I could turn the static that I just showed that had 5 stacks into a static with 80, and it adds 80 damage for every hit. And because it happens every year, you're not wasting turns to increase those enchants. You're not wasting turns picking those cards either. It's just passive. And the third king I really want to go into detail about is King of Greed. And one thing I put off with King of Greed was dispensers. In this clip, you're seeing just how OP they can actually get. And at first, I wasn't even giving dispensers a shot, because I read the description, I was like, oh, that does not sound that good. But that was before I understood having multiple vaults, a lot of perks that add more gold for killing troops, and anything at all that allowed you to gain gold, increase the attack speed, and as long as you had something that increased the damage, it just became unstoppable. And one of the perks that Greed has is that you get 50 gold every time you lose a life, and when you have the right perks, getting that to 200 gold every time you lose a life, with cards like the Dispenser and Mercenary heavily scaling based on how much gold you receive and have on you, that it is okay to lose a life every once in a while. Because when you have a turret getting an extra 200% attack speed for losing 1 life, that can change the entire game. And the fourth king up is King of Blood. Pretty much as soon as I started playing King of Blood, I really enjoyed the builds and the imps and just going for basically cemetery builds. But one thing I didn't think about were all the decrees that add summon strength. And with the fact that you can get your pagoda to level 18 with the new perk revamp, the actual ability to summon imps and the demon altars that scale throughout the game with troop deaths become overwhelmingly broken. King of Blood is definitely the easiest in my opinion. It's the easiest to understand, easiest to pick up. As long as you get summon strength and you just spawn your imps anywhere, you could even leave it on auto, it just insta wipes everything. And yeah, so what I wish I knew about King of Blood before playing 9 kings is just, it is the easiest to go the furthest and the longest and the hardest difficulties with. You can literally just sit back and just let your imps do everything. And the king that's up next is King of Nature. And one thing that you learn very quickly, but I just think it's important to throw into this video, is that the healing ability from your castle or your base actually damages for the same amount. Well, damages for the same amount as long as you don't have decrees or anything increasing the amount of healing received. Meaning that, like, if your troops are fine on their own and they don't really need the healing, then you can actually use this on your backline. And if they're somewhat tanky, like in longer runs, like even ballistas are very tanky. Elves are pretty tanky when you're up against the rebellion. And because they stay permanently until the fight is over, you can have a ton of the circles damaging every second or two, and it just stacks and it goes crazy. Another card that I heavily underestimated until I played it once, and now it's like one of my favorite cards, are the boars. And actually, my favorite card in the entire game, or at least the combo, are warlocks and boars, which is what you're watching in this video. So boars actually increase the stats of whatever rider it has on it by how much HP it has. By 1 health is 1% more. And you can see in this clip, I have 2 forests increasing the HP, I have a farm increasing the population of the boars, and then I have the warlocks in front, so they're adjacent so that the warlocks can actually be on top of the boars. And this just makes them pretty much unkillable, especially with the boosted stats on either of them and the amount of HP they have. It's just crazy. It's my favorite combo in the entire game. And as you can kind of tell, the warlocks are not a King of Nature card. The downside of having the boars on King of Nature is, I mean, you could put elves on it, but there aren't really many troops unless you use other king's troops, and I just found that warlocks are my favorite to use. One of my favorite kings and most hated kings is up next, and that is King of Stone. One of the things I wish I knew earlier on when playing King of Stone was using earthwork cards. So earthworks can pick up a building, and however many levels it has, it gives you that many cards back for no cost, and it unlocks the adjacent plots that haven't been unlocked yet, meaning you can get 2 to 3 extra plots, and that's for free, and you don't have to wait for the expansion years. And so the earlier you get the earthwork cards, the better, because you can just get more plots unlocked, and then you can actually plan ahead further with what cards you want or need. And as King of Stone is a heavy defense / tower type of build, the building Quarry adds 2% damage per level it has to all towers in buildings. Meaning the Stronghold, the actual Flame Tower, because it's a mobile tower, it doesn't actually die, the Trebuchet, any dispenser, any other buildings for any other king. Quarries are so nice because it also doesn't have to be adjacent, it just does it for everything that you have placed down. And one of the perks that King of Stone has is kind of like the perk Greed has that I mentioned earlier. That instead of gaining 50 gold every time you lose a life, King of Stone actually gains a certain amount of wall makers. And it starts at level 1 of the perk is 2 wall makers, so it doesn't even fill out a full level 3 building. And again, if you have the proper perk placement, you can actually get it to level 4, which is 8 wall makers every time you lose a life. Which if you place all 8 right after you lose a life, that pretty much boosts your defense times like a million. So it pretty much saves you early, at least early game, from just getting steamrolled round after round and just losing all 3 lives back to back. And last but not least, well, maybe least, is King of Progress. One of the things about King of Progress is a lot of the cards or like buildings are rat based. Like the converter one-shots enemy troops and turns them into rats. And then you have a card, Lab Rats, which can actually level infinitely, which sounds amazing at first, but if you don't get the right enchants and if you don't build around leveling them infinitely, they're pretty much useless and just take up plot spaces. But an important thing to note is every time something adjacent to them levels up, they also level up. So as you can see, I put 5 plots of lab rats next to each other, and every time I level it up, it just does an insane amount of leveling, stat boosts, everything. So lab rats can be good if you go in trying to make them good. If you just place them down and think they're going to be good, they will not be good, and just don't even try. And in this clip, I level up the lab rats, and if you can see the stats, the pink ones that add % damage, that's from a card called Precision, which adds 1% damage every time they level up, which perfectly scales with a card that can level up infinitely. And imagine having a library next to a lab rat with Precision on it, and it just guarantees Precision levels every time, and they level up infinitely. I've had stacks of like 40 on one plot of lab rats, which increases the % damage an insane amount. So yeah, I would probably say the 2 things I wish I knew about King of Progress specifically was mainly lab rats can be good, which I was putting off for a very long time because I just did not want to try it until I did, and I love it. And then also the reinforced card, as you can see here, is really, really good. And it adds the stack of the % damage every time any plot levels up, so you can put it on any troop. They don't have to level infinitely, and it'll just change your army's damage output by insane amounts. If you found any part of this little what I wish I knew guide helpful at all, or if you didn't know any of the facts, just let me know down below. I love to hear the comments and feedback. If there's something I didn't mention, also let me know. I'm still learning the game just as you are. I just have a little more experience than I think the average player does. And all the clips that I posted and my commentary on are videos I've posted on my channel. So if you want any specific game, go check it out. I appreciate y'all watching. See y'all next time.